Day two. Welcome to day two of the Yale Innovation Summit. My name is David Harburger. I'm a life sciences IP attorney over at Greenberg Traurig in Boston. Also, more importantly, Yale Pharmacology PhD class of 2010. So GT is a sponsor of the event. Thrilled to be here. For those of you not familiar, one of the largest firms. If you got M&A in Germany, partnering in Korea, or just want to liberate Britney Spears from a conservatorship, we got you covered. We also do life sciences and early stage company work. And that's where I come in. And we're just thrilled to be a part of this event. And it's my pleasure to introduce in just a moment the new CEO and president of BioCT. When I was first set foot on Yale's campus in 2003, this building didn't exist. The Yale Innovation Summit didn't exist. Due to a lot of the stakeholders and innovators in this room, we've seen so much change. There's a long list of players, but one constant force has always been BioCT. And so it's an honor and privilege to welcome Jody Gillen, the new CEO and president. Jody's career and background is incredibly fitting for this moment with her roles in supporting both early stage companies and pharmaceuticals. Most recently, she had a clinical affairs and patient advocacy senior role at Peptologics, early stage company using machine learning to advance biologics through the clinic. In addition, she's had senior roles over a decade at Pfizer and local companies such as Killian, as well as AstraZeneca, just to name a few. My main goal here is to have the privilege to introduce Jody, so I'll keep it short and welcome everybody and look forward to another fantastic day of the Yale Summit. Thank you, Yale, and Yale Ventures for creating this opportunity.
Good morning. How lucky am I that 4 weeks into my tenure as BioCT's new President CEO, I get to address the entire life science ecosystem in Connecticut. So I took liberties with the title of my talk. I think the time for discovery was long ago. I think this is really the time for Connecticut. And kudos to Yale Ventures for pulling this off, and I'm so incredibly grateful for this opportunity. So I have 8 minutes to cover all this. It's a really good thing I'm a fast-talking New Yorker. I'm from Brooklyn specifically, and not the hip part that East Rock of New Haven reminds me of. I'm from the part that won't be gentrified in my lifetime. And at 13, I actually moved to Manhattan. I attended the high school that the Angelina Jolie movie Hackers was based on. And then after high school, for me, it was DC or bust. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to go into health policy. So I ended up at Georgetown University. And it was really that experience that shaped my entire career trajectory. So at the time, I'm old enough that I was a White House intern during the Clinton-Gore administration. And I had the privilege of interning at the Office of AIDS Policy under Donna Shalala. And back then, it was only actually a year ago that they started to pay White House interns. So I had to have actually 2 paying jobs to be able to be a White House intern. So one was a guard in a dorm, and the irony of that was not lost upon me, especially when you meet me later. And then the other was actually at Georgetown University Hospital, and it was an HIV clinic. And it was at the start of the epidemic when it was a different building, different air ducts, and patients were sick, dying rapidly, and there were no options for them. But then at the Office of AIDS Policy, we were changing laws. We were making sure that there was innovation and creating options and an infrastructure to be able to treat, educate, and prevent the disease. So I decided that's where I wanted to focus my energy, 1, on patients, and 2, preventing them from getting sick and keeping them healthy. So after Georgetown, I actually moved to Israel. I served as a medic in the IDF. And then I went to graduate school there. I studied epidemiology and health economics. And then I got snatched up by an Israeli biotech that moved me back to the US, and that was about 25 years ago. And until 4 weeks ago, I'd been in the private sector ever since. I say 7 companies, 7's my lucky number. So 4 startups, really small startups, starting from 2 people, going up to maybe 200, and then 3 large pharmaceutical companies. And I've had all these kitchen sink roles with nebulous titles, essentially building out all patient, medical, and corporate affairs at large and small companies. So then I always get the question, why Connecticut and why BioCT? And I love these questions. So in 2016, it was actually the first time I stepped foot in New Haven. And it was to interview at a startup called Achillion Pharmaceuticals, which probably many of you know. It was at 300 George Street, which eventually got snatched up by Alexion, and then AstraZeneca, one of also my former employers. I was heading their chief medical office down in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And I lived out of the Omni Hotel on Chapel Street for 2 years. And I had the best 2 years of my life. I absolutely fell in love, not necessarily with the Omni, as much as it was a home away from home, but with New Haven. For me, New Haven is a microcosm of New York City. All the pluses, but not so many of the minuses. You can go to so many restaurants, the walkability, the theaters, performances, but it's a different vibe here. It's more affordable. It's a little bit more laid back, and it's not as much of what I say is now about New York City, an assault on my senses here. So for me, it was everything. And then finally, during the COVID pandemic, I had the opportunity to move here in 2020, make Connecticut my permanent home. I now actually have an apartment, don't live out of a hotel. And I keep joking I'm inching my way up north. So I started in Greenwich, then Norwalk, now Westport, and now I'm eyeing New Haven yet again. So absolutely fell in love with Connecticut, and I can't imagine living anywhere else. But then I'm living in Connecticut, loving it, but I am unable to find a senior level role here. And I was looking for a few years, and I was meeting all the right people, and that's one of the many things I love about Connecticut. I call it 1 degree of separation. Peter Denius, he actually calls it the 1 phone call state, but we're saying the same thing. It's a tight-knit community where everyone is supporting everyone else, and everyone truly supported me, but the senior level roles for me were in other states. So then one day, David Shear, who was on our board at Achillion and is on our board at BioCT, he calls me up about the position at BioCT, and we had many, many conversations about the role. So I'm going to let you in on why BioCT and how I actually make decisions. So the way that I don't make decisions is actually by talking to other people. So when I called my network, and I'm very grateful for my industry network of pharma CEOs, CMOs, and I said, should I leave the private sector and take on this role as CEO of BioCT? Everyone said, absolutely not, are you crazy, in my network. So that's not how I did. And I remember a friend of mine who heads HR at a biotech company, she actually said to me, you're going to have to hustle. Don't you want to be the conductor of the orchestra? You paid your dues. And in a way, she's right. I am absolutely hustling, but I wouldn't have it any other way. For me, this was the opportunity of a lifetime. So how I actually make decisions is I take a quiet moment and I really think, what are my priorities in life at this stage? And I sit down and I write them out. And for me, number 1 was not only living in Connecticut, but working in Connecticut. Number 2, especially post-COVID, was getting out of the house and engaging stakeholders. And certainly, I could check those 2 boxes easily. And then number 3 is really being able to use the tools in my shed. So I like to have a role where I can add value, contribute, and use and leverage my experience. So after I really thought through my priorities, for me, this was an incredibly obvious next step in my career. And just given my personal struggle, and then hearing from companies about how they have so many open roles and they're struggling to find talent, I'm thinking there's real opportunity here to, 1, make sure that talent is aware of how incredible this state is and they're coming here, but for people like me to have the opportunity and not have to go work in other states for those senior level roles. So now I'm going to jump into about BioCT. So we are small, we're 5 people, but I think we have the best team. So we have Kim Kelly, who heads our incubators, and she has a new title commensurate with the role that she's performing. So BioCT is the only bio organization that actually runs incubators. We have one in Groton, thanks to Pfizer, and then we actually have one in New Haven on Congress Street. And Kim is the true maven of incubators. She's helping people call her from all over the country to get advice, and we do have space if anyone's interested. Then we have Kelly Gibson, who I think everyone in this room probably knows, and I get to be out and about and chatting with people. She's the one who truly makes BioCT function. I'm so incredibly grateful that I have Kelly in this transition. And then we have Caitlin. So Caitlin's our communications guru. She actually made these slides for me. And then we have Ben, who supports membership and then our savings program as well. I'm biased. I think we have the greatest board on the planet, if you look at those names, and I think almost everyone on the board is actually here today. Somehow I never met Stan Choi, our chairman of the board, until I interviewed for BioCT, but he's been an incredibly wonderful partner, and I'm so grateful for this board, and I really have to pinch myself that I get to work and have thought partners with these individuals listed here. So what do you get as a member of BioCT? What do we offer? So it's interesting, because yesterday I sat down for an hour about our savings program, and frankly, I don't even think I scratched the surface on everything that we have to offer. So just some examples. We get 40% off Thermo Fisher products, free shipping. I mean, that's incredible just there. But then Ben sent out a note this past Tuesday to all our members that now we have additional member benefits. So it's not just about for the company, but now also for employees. So up to 50% off enterprise car rentals, hotels, even local museum benefits as well, free passes to museums. So in speaking to members, I've been on a listening tour for the past 3.5 weeks, and I'm not sure that all our members are aware of all the savings that they get. So I'm certainly going to make sure that I'm educating myself so that I can educate our members. We have a government affairs committee. Given my policy roots, this is something that I'd like to take a much more active role in. And then we have a lot of member benefits, career portal, different communications. We can share all your events with our distribution list. In terms of events, we have 3, and to date, they've been purely social. So next week, we're partnering with Advanced CT. They actually took the lead on our bio booth this year. It's booth number 534. Everyone going to bio, please stop by our booth. And then I wanted to share, I actually changed our mission statement. I've been leading communications now for almost 3 decades, and I obsess over words. So to me, I see that BioCT is playing a part in not only catalyzing the life science industry here in Connecticut, but I think also marketing. And I know a lot of organizations are working on this too. There is so much happening in Connecticut. How do we make sure that's nationally recognized? How do we make sure that companies are coming here and talent's coming here? And then the number one question, I actually even got asked this before my first day, May 8th. What are your future plans for BioCT? So I know my board's here, and my first board meeting is actually June 20th, so they're getting a preview of what I'm going to be sharing at that board meeting that's in person, that I extended to 3 hours. So in terms of what are my plans, number one, increase value to our members, absolutely. 1, show the value we have to date, but continuously increase that value. Number 2, I mentioned that our events to date, we have 3 social events. I'd like to add educational events, and I'd like to think more regionally as well. Number 3, go vertical within each organization. So right now, I have a contact list, which is 1 person per organization. I want to meet every person in that organization. I want to make sure that they're aware of all the member benefits and that we're partnering, and I understand each role and needs as well. So I'm trying to go into as many companies as possible, and I hope you'll all invite me to go into your companies. So number 4, co-lead mission-matched objectives. So I actually use this term a lot at Pfizer, and I know it sounds very big pharma. So what does that mean? So when I was on the other side, I had stakeholders, and I always had a limited budget. So what I did is have very open discussions with my stakeholders, and I said, These are my objectives. This is where I could put resources. Let's talk about yours and let's see what we can do together, because this is where I can put my resources this year. So I want to make sure that we're all having those open conversations as well. Next, work in lockstep with the Connecticut ecosystem. So I'm the new kid on the block, and there are a lot of players in Connecticut, and I'm still learning who's on first, and I'm incredibly grateful. Everyone's been so gracious to me and so supportive. And we all have limited resources, though, and I do think that we can be stronger working in tandem together. So one example of that is kicking off a nexus with CT Next. I'm actually spending the day with Mike Harris very soon, and we're gonna be kicking off this nexus of stakeholders and organizations like ours in Connecticut to make sure that we're collaborating and doing things more efficiently and innovating together. So then next, expand membership to include the entire life sciences sector. So I want to make sure that I leave no stone unturned. My background is very strong in patients. How do I get the patient groups and societies involved? Med tech, real world evidence, digital companies. So I want to make sure that everyone touching the life science sector is a member of BioCT. And then expand, and then shout from the rooftops. So we talked about this. There's so much happening here. How do I work with all these tremendous organizations to make sure that we're not only talking amongst ourselves, but that everyone nationally and even internationally, we have groups from different countries coming to check out Connecticut. So how do we continue to do that so everyone's aware of everything that's happening throughout Connecticut? So those are my plans in broad strokes. And with that, I want to spend a minute on intent for the day. So why do I do this? When I was at Achilleon, I remember I had a meeting in Germany, and my manager, Michael Geffner, God's gift to managers, he said to me, I need you to find a site in Brazil. So I walked into a function, and I kept thinking, Brazil, Brazil, Brazil. And it's not that, everything parted, the music stopped, and the first person I met was from Brazil. I had to work the entire room for a few hours, but by the end of the night, I landed a site in Brazil. So I wanted us, since we're kicking off today, and today is the last day of the summit, to think, what is our main goal for today? Is it partnering? Is it landing funding? Is it meeting stakeholders? And my goal for today is 50 new contacts and at least one new member. And actually last night I was able to land one new member, but I always like to exceed goals. So I hope to be able to add to that. And I think we're not as populous a state as our neighbors, but everyone here counts exponentially. So I hope that you'll come meet me today, talk, and I hope that you'll help me enable that goal. And I definitely want to learn about your goals. So now I have the privilege to announce our next program, which is a short ceremony to honor this year's recipients of the Blavatnik Awards from the Blavatnik Fund for Innovation at Yale. Today's 12 honorees were selected by an external advisory board of venture investors led by Tim Shannon from Kane & Partners and Liam Ratcliffe from Access Biotechnology. Please join me in welcoming Tim and Liam to the stage to present the awards. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liam Ratcliffe, and to my left is Tim Shannon. And we're both delighted to be here with you this morning to make these awards. I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking about the Blavatnik Fund for Innovation at Yale and really express our thanks to the board, and that'll be on the next slide, the board that actually oversees the review of grants, and also all the people who work in the office of Yale Ventures who manage the process. This is a labor of love, and it's been a tremendous success, I think, over the last 6 years. We've seen, since 2017, 56 projects have been funded so far, and they've resulted in 14 spin-off companies from Yale. Together, those companies have raised over $250 million in venture funding, and 3 have achieved IND status. This year we have 12 awardees selected from 60 applicants with 3 rounds of pitching and refining their proposals. So today we are very excited to honor the recipients of the 2023 Blavatnik Awards. And as we read the names, we'd ask each recipient to come up to receive the award and then to remain on stage, because we're going to take a group photo at the end. Okay, first up, Farida Ahangari for targeting fibrotic macrophages for a novel therapeutic approach for pulmonary fibrosis. Anson Bennett for Allegium Therapeutics, driving change to better health. Vicente Diaz, extended release latanoprost wafer for the treatment of glaucoma. Lynn Filene for Playbill, harness the power of play to enable healthier and better lives for adolescents. Michael Girardi, immunotherapeutics to treat T-cell leukemias and lymphomas. Peter Glazer, Hybridex Biosciences, enabling the next generation of safe gene editing therapeutics. And accepting for Peter is an MD PhD student who's working on this project, Nick Economos. Rohan Kera, Insight AI. Anton Koleska, a screen for small molecule regulators of target X activity, a novel treatment for schizophrenia. And accepting for Tony is his collaborator, Julia Zaretsva. Is Julia here? Okay. The next few winners were not here, but we'll make their announcements anyway. Ruslan Metsutov, a novel approach to identify a new class of therapeutics for inflammatory disease. So Ruslan is not here, but we are congratulating in his absence. And then Richard Flavel and Ian Odell, epiregulin inhibition to treat scleroderma skin and lung fibrosis. Again, they're not here today, but we congratulate them in their absence. And lastly, David Spiegel, transmembrane anchoring bifunctional molecules for immunotherapy. Okay, so let's give all the awardees a round of applause. If you can just hang on there, I think Bill's coming up to say a few words.
All right, get your pictures. All right, why don't we give all of these guys a great round of applause. Thank you. All right, thanks, guys. Well, thank you, Tim and Liam, and congratulations to our Blavatnik Awardees. I'm Bill Wiesler. I'm the director of the Blavatnik Fund and your biotech track leader for today. Welcome. We have a fantastic day of biotech for you, and there's 5 fantastic panels in this room, but there's also a lot of other things to consider. There's 2 panels upstairs that should be of particular interest to entrepreneurs and early stage companies. Right at 9 o'clock, upstairs, right above this room, is how to pitch to biotech VCs. And that's always been a fantastic panel that people have valued. So check that one out. And then the other is partnering early with pharma. And that's right after lunch upstairs in room 2400. Also, you'll note in your guide, your pocket guide, that there are 4 of our publicly traded biotech companies that will be giving presentations upstairs on the 4th floor. So check that out. These are some of the companies that we are most proud of here in Connecticut. All of this is in your pocket guide, but let me also point out that you should have picked up this card with the showcase companies listed. There's a room right in front called the Forum. It's a big oval room on the 1st floor, and there will be 50 pitches there today. The morning starts off with companies that are big and small, and then in the afternoon, there are pitches for with entrepreneurs that are just starting companies and looking for their first capital. And then we end the day with 7 pitches that are our biotech pitch contest. And all of this is in your program. The biotech pitch contest is always a lot of fun, and there will be some big awards, Blavatnik Accelerator prizes for the winners. So if you have any questions throughout the day, look for our volunteers in the yellow shirts, or any of us from Yale Ventures. Our tags say Yale Ventures at the bottom, and we can help direct you to what you're interested in finding. And with that, have a great day, and the panels start now.